I'm one of your biggest fans. Like,
Yeah, I see you always giving me love. I appreciate that.
I've been telling you, and I've been trying to silently in the background motivate you to get your podcast started. So that's what I wanted to talk about: is what's going on with your podcast.
So let's go ahead and get into this. Now, this particular topic may not be necessarily popular, but this is what's real. I put out 2 videos on YouTube talking about R. Kelly. The first one was talking about R. Kelly and him going to jail and all this and other stuff, right? And I'm not tripping on that. You know, he needs to serve his time for what he's done. Cool. I'm with that. Then I brought out another live, YouTube, Facebook Live, where I was like, okay, we know what he did. Now let's examine why. Some people would say money, power, whatever the case is why he did it. I wouldn't say that. I would say, according to his brother, him and his brother were violated by a female cousin when they were boys. I would say that may be the reason why. She was a teenage girl. She violated these boys. And when he got older, he started violating other teenage girls. So I use that parallel. And in the Black community, we know there are a lot of people that are sweeping under the rug all these girls and these boys that have been violated by other family members. We sweep it under the rug. And then when they become very over sexual and they do things that is not cool, then we want to go ahead and bash them and talk about them and, you know, and just throw stones at them. But we didn't acknowledge the fact that no one helped Robert Kelly before he became R. Kelly. No one looked at the little boy before he became a predator. Now, I lose some people by saying that. And I think the reason why I lose some people by saying that is because it's hard to look at R. Kelly as somebody who, you know, who necessarily, you know, went out there and did what he did. Now, in no form or fashion do I want to advocate. No, my point is this. Right, hurt people hurt people. My point is this. I want to talk about the victimization of sexually, the sexual introduction to children.
Yes.
That's what and I only used R. Kelly as the example, only the example, because he's the extreme of it all, right? Not everybody becomes a predator. And you know what I'm saying? So that's just what it is. See, not everybody becomes a predator. But we do know that it does exist. It exists. Where someone would get introduced to sex early, men and women. We don't talk about the men at all. You know what I mean? And we don't utilize the facts that we know this exists. How many of us got a cousin who's been violated? And we don't talk about it. We don't talk about it. We just sweep it under the rug and let these children go out here and have unhealthy sexual relationships. And we just say, hey, you're out here by yourself. But if we would have if we would have paid more attention to our children, to youngins, then there'll be a different conversation.
Especially with young men.
Especially with young men. And it's different.
Our right to passage sexually is to actually get that.
Exactly.
So for young girls, it's different. We as a society, we treat it differently. But
yeah, we do.
As young men, we're like, well, hey, you're lucky you got some, because a lot of young boys don't get none. So
exactly
that somebody touched you. So it's kind of like one of those things, and I do think that in terms of, you know, how grace and thinking, like, that was one thing I loved about, like, you talking about that is like, we could talk surface level stuff, but then there's deep thought that we have to, like, bring these.
You have to go deeper.
We have to go deeper, and that's why I get a lot of flack, because I love digging deeper. I love talking.
Hey, Black, I love you, but sometimes you be making my head hurt. Okay, you do. Like, listen, when you gave up those reasons, those examples of why people deal with married men, I was like, hey, Black, be quiet, please. or the time where you said you give your wife everything, I was like, oh, this he is tripping. I just certain topics I just would rather you not touch.
Like Jesus is arrogant.
Just please don't touch those.
Well, like I said,
but overall, I do like the fact that you do pour into people and you do big people up. You dope in that. I appreciate that. I love that. I really do. Anybody who also has a question can ask a question, and anybody who wants to come in alive can also come in alive. I wanted to say that real quick, but so yeah, that is really what I'm focused on, and a lot. I brought up guys first because guys, we sweep it under the rug because they say, oh, they enjoyed it. 9-year-olds and 8-year-olds and 10-year-olds are not enjoying it. Mm-hmm. If we're talking teenage boys, it's kind of different. But I just don't want to touch that necessarily because that's too, we touching cedar saws with that. But with the 8 and 9 and 10-year-olds, those little boys don't want that. We got the Anton Fisher stories. We got all these other, Charlemagne the God who was 9 and he just became overly sexual and then potentially, victimizing another woman. And I only said potentially because it was alleged and it was never, confirmed whether or not it happened. So I'm only going to say it. But at the same time, he did admit and say that he was overly sexually charged, that he had a huge sexual appetite and he would sleep with anything that walked. So that by itself is an example of him being violated at 9. He admitted it. He was 9 years old, said that she was 9 years old and she violated him. And then later did what he did. And these boys are being left to be quiet. And they go in society with unhealthy mentality about sex. And then the rest of us who have to take that get mad when no one had his back from the beginning because it's not normal to have their backs. That to me is frustrating because I have 3 brothers. I don't have any children, but when I plan to have any, if I have a son, you get what I'm saying? I'm dating these men that you guys are talking about. You get what I'm saying? So I'm dating them. I have brothers. I can't. If we care about our man, we have to be real about the uncomfortable truths. So that's how I look at it, and that's what my podcast is leaning towards. I really love the fact that that I'm getting that some people are understanding where I'm coming from. So. Yeah,
well,
I know, Simon. I don't know what's up with my camera, but go ahead, E-Black.
Don't be afraid to just speak your truth. That's the one thing coming into like content creating and all that. I've been, I was scared at first that I would come off the wrong way, but then I realized that the more I linked on my truth, it was easier to have these conversations. So a lot of times it sounds like I'll be off, but I'm willing to lean on truth than say, oh, well, I didn't mean to say that, or I didn't mean to talk about this. And when you do that, it's easier to have these tough conversations. Mm-hmm.